Hello, it being 1:01, I will open the executive session. I will open up today for the House Executive Departments and Administration Committee. Sorry, I'm a little low on coffee today. And with that, I would like to ask Representative Bailey to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes. Where's the numbers that we have people that are down?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're down 2 currently.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. So, and
Sorry.
okay. And so I'd like to open the executive session on House Bill 1675. I have distributed an amendment. It is not that one. It is amendment 0946H. What this amendment does is in section 1, it makes so that whoever is the coordinator of the domestic violence grant fund is clarifies that they are subject to 91A as they are affecting state policy. And if you look at the language and the exemptions that are, I'll move amendment 0946H. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And I'll go back to discussing this. In the language of 91A, there are already broad exemptions for protection of privacy, protection of individual information, because within all of this, you have to keep in mind that the New Hampshire Hospital is a state agency that is subject to 91A and has the exemptions in order to protect personal privacy, and many, many other parts that are directly part of the government that deal with vulnerable people are subject to 91A pursuant to those exemptions that are there. In section 2 of this, it requires an annual report from the Department of Health and Human Services about the programs funded by the Domestic Violence Grant Program. And in section 3, which is on page 2, starting at line 4, it directs the Department of Justice to also make an annual report of programs for the Victims Assistance Fund. With that, and with that information that we have, with that and with the information that we have, we are we're moving forward so that we can have that language in place so that we can make sure that what the state is doing and what the state is asking its contracted groups to do is what is actually being done. This is to ensure that all the contracts and all the information that we have are there and are available. And yes, and so that's that amendment. Although, yes. Would you like to speak to the second?
No.
Okay, no. Okay. Hold on. Yes, you have a question.
Yes, perhaps you addressed this, but I just want to make sure. So this grant program would be for all programs, all organizations that basically receive aid and assistance for domestic violence victims. Is that correct?
Yes, all that receive that aid for domestic violence victims under the Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay.
Yes. Let's see. Representative Schmidt? Oh, you weren't looking to speak to that?
Just 1 minute.
Okay. Actually, sorry, and I thought that I'd have another person here as well.
We caucus until.
You know what? Let's. We'd had a few people out from both sides, but we don't have people out from both sides now. And so I'll recess this with pending motion to adopt the amendment. Next, I will. Oh, let me just move that to the side. Next, I will open the executive session on House Bill 1609, limiting the use of state, county, and municipal funds and property for construction and operation of certain immigrant detention facilities. And I'd recognize Representative Thiebaud for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move ITL on HB 1609.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Representative DeRoy. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that we should not be handcuffing ourselves as a state to not comply with federal immigration enforcement, and especially preventing counties and municipalities that might have buildings that they want to sell off that they could receive revenue from by selling them to DHS or some other agency. So I don't think this is the right bill for us, and I think we should move forward with complying with our federal partners to ensure that the law is upheld.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your second? Okay, thank you. Representative Howard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in support of HB 1609, and I'm going to use a quote from my good friend Representative Bailey, because we've had a lot of discussions in Stratford County about how much money we've been receiving from the federal government to actually fund our ICE detention program. And it's a situation where we've had some debates as to whether we're actually making money off of this proposal or if we're actually spending money to house people on behalf of the federal government. And it is my personal opinion that we actually, if we are going to engage in 287G contracts or other contracts with the federal government, that we should be making a profit off of that if that's what they're looking to do. We shouldn't be paying and having our taxpayers foot the bill for something that the federal government is looking to incentivize and fund. It is my personal belief that, we need to, listen to some of these discussions. And I mean, this affects Stratford County very heavily, as we have seen, this contract bring in about $9 million. And it's a question of whether or not that $9 million is something that we are expending more for our county facility for. And we want to make sure that we're getting as much money out of these contracts as possible, and that we're not necessarily letting our local taxpayers foot the bill. With that, I hope that you'll overturn the ITL motion and support an OTPA motion going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I did see that there is an amendment that has been handed out before. This is 0207H, and this is the amendment from Representative Muse and Representative Grota. I assume that's the one that you would like us to overturn the ITL and to pass?
That is correct.
Thank you. And then as a clarification, if you look at line 21 on that, 21 through 24, it says nothing in this section shall be construed to prevent a law enforcement entity or county corrections facility that has entered into a 287G agreement with the Department of Health and the Department of Homeland Security from cooperating with federal immigration authorities as specified. To me, that reads that the section above this is not going to do anything to change what's happening currently at Stratford County. And so this would only be moving forward.
Respectfully, I would have to disagree, because this is a situation where we, as an entity in Stratford County, had no real clue as to whether or not we were making money off of that contract. And this piece of legislation would ensure and mandate that we actually have that fixed. And I do think that, when we're looking at the 287G contracts, we want to be, making sure that the federal government is paying for these bills rather than our local taxpayers, which is ultimately my biggest concern when we're talking about this bill and how we need to move forward. We need to be thinking about the local taxpayers.
Thank you. Representative Dargy Davis.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to have that on. Thank you. I think that you do raise a point about the federal government paying their full contribution. If the federal government was paying their full contribution that they had promised on special education, we would not be paying the property taxes that we are today. However, I don't see where your discussion about the necessity for the federal government to pay Stratford County what the full cost. I don't read that anywhere in this bill, and I would welcome something where we're addressing this in the future, but I don't see that as the intent of this bill or the effect of this bill. Representative Bailey?
I appreciate your appreciation, and I invite you and Representative Schmidt to join me in voting against the budget tomorrow night, the budget that includes this. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Grota?
Yes, I ask a courtesy from the chair to at least allow me to introduce the amendment so that we can either vote against it or add it to the bill and then vote for the bill, whether or not you like it or not. So I just am asking, the amendment came out of a question and discussion out of the hearing. It's up to you.
Oh, thank you. My expectation is that if this ends up having a majority vote of ITL, I would assume that you would want to adopt that amendment as part of the minority, and that doesn't require a vote of the committee. But I do appreciate the work that you did, and I believe that that is very helpful to have the clarification. If you would like to tell us what it is that we are voting to not all vote on with this amendment, I'd be happy to have you explain to us what is in Amendment 0207H.
Thank you. So first of all, it was a definition of the funds for the what exactly the funds are defined as and their use, and the other was the clause that should a county correction facility, it doesn't prevent the county from doing. Oh, okay. I didn't realize she left the room. I looked over and I didn't see her. So sorry. It doesn't prevent the county from entering into an agreement, but it does make it point that the funds for these facilities are to be paid for by the federal government, and that it's important, I think, to understand with the attention that New Hampshire has on its revenues right now, that we make sure that the monies that we're raising in New Hampshire for New Hampshire purposes are being used for those purposes and not being used to support federal programs. I think that we, as a committee that supports transparency and accountability, that we would take that seriously.
Thank you, Representative Grote. Would anyone like to further discuss the amendment?
Thank you. And I greatly appreciate you having the amendment with that definition. I do think that is helpful. Okay. Representative Sellers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With or without the amendment, in any case, my real big concern on this is the state is putting their hand, their arm, their entire body on local control again. We're telling local control what they can and cannot do. So we're actually telling my county, you can or cannot do this. You're telling my town, you can or cannot do that. And they may want to, and they may not want to. But I'm saying, I think, again, we all talk about local control. Well, we either mean it or we don't. So that's why I'm going to be voting for the ITL.
Thank you. Representative Howard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, when we're talking about local control, yes, when we're thinking about what happened in Merrimack per se, and how they should have a choice as to where, those facilities are placed, that's a different question than what we're talking about right here. We're talking about making sure that the local municipality is getting their fair share and that those local taxpayers are not footing the bill for these facilities. It's not to say that they can't allow them to exist in your town or your county. It's just saying that you have to make sure that the federal government is paying for everything. And I think that that is a very important distinction, because this bill and this necessity for this comes out of places like Stratford County, where there was not necessarily clarity as to whether or not we are actually making a profit or making money from the federal government off of these contracts. And that's something that I think is very important and something that we need to do, so that we are taking burdens off of our local taxpayers rather than placing something on them that the federal government should be paying for. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Navalanko?
Yes, Representative Rich Nalavanko. I think, and I'll share some of the opinion of my colleague. This is a matter for local people to negotiate the contracts and the terms. And unless we're saying the state is smarter than the people we have in the communities that are dealing with this, I have an objection to that kind of an insinuation where you impose, you're saying, gee, you're not smart enough to decide whether you're making money or losing money. It still is a question for the local entities to decide how they want to spend taxpayer money. And they're accountable at the end of the day. If the result is they wind up spending taxpayer money and that's against the will of the local people, they're accountable for that. And so I think I'm on the side that says you ought to leave this in the hands of the people closest to making those decisions.
Thank you. Representative Bailey?
I again appreciate what you're saying. And if you look at, we're all of us in Stratford County received a schedule of the last decade, what they're paying and getting, and the number of prisoners and detainees, I should say. You couldn't get a hotel room for what we're paying the feds. Let alone be guarded in that room and fed, and we are in Stratford County subsidizing the whole country's ICE detainees. The people in your town and my town are paying for that. And I've been voting against it for years. I'd like to see you people join me, as Roy Schmidt, and, it's a big no vote, right? It should be local control. You are the local. Thank you.
Yeah, Representative Howard?
Yeah, and I have to agree with you, Representative Bailey, and that's something where and this is why I came to you several months ago, at the county level to say, what are we doing with the ICE contract? And I think that you're 100% correct. We are looking at this situation where we are getting less than what you could get a hotel room for, and that is something where this bill is supposed to fix that problem by mandating that any contract that we engage in going forward, the local municipality or county is getting that revenue, and that we're not putting that bill on our local property taxpayers. We've already seen local property taxes go up way, way more than what is necessary. And it's important to understand that, when we're looking at something like this, we don't want to add additional costs onto our local taxes. And that's where this bill would fix that problem and that concern that Representative Bailey has addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Drury, and then we'll call the vote.
I appreciate your perspective. However, it's about management, it's about accountability and transparency, and there is none of that when we look at our financials in Stratford County. We should not be putting bills in. We should be holding our elected officials and appointed people accountable to make sure that they're doing what they need to do.
Thank you. I look forward to the results. Sorry, Representative Pearson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I sit on the Executive Board of Rockingham County. Rockingham County looked at a potential contract as we have a new county building, and the county now has 2 jails, and the commissioners rejected the proposed, they tabled it, but in essence rejected the proposed contract because they did go through it. They did their job. There were certain terms and conditions within the contract they didn't like. They subsequently went back with the feds to get them to negotiate that. They were at an impasse and they were done. That's exactly how that process is supposed to work. And it worked, at least in Rockingham County, the way it should. So handcuffing, pun intended, handcuffing groups here involving prohibitions in taking away the ability for at least Rockingham County to decide how it's going to function and operate is not something that I can entertain into. So, I don't see how there's a fix to this at all right now.
Thank you very much. And with that, I look forward to the results of the Stratford County vote tomorrow. And with that, I'll have the clerk call the roll on an expedient to legislate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill is House Bill 1609. The motion is ITL. If you are in support of ITL, you will vote yes. And if you're against ITL, you will vote no or nay or whatever strikes you. Representative Schlosky,
Yes.
Representative Novelko,
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey,
Aye.
Representative Sellers,
Yes.
Representative Thibault,
Yes.
Representative DeRoy,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Crota votes no. Representative Schmidt,
No.
Representative Davis,
No.
Representative Dargy,
No.
Representative Heath,
No.
Oh, jeez. I'm sorry. Representative Howard? No. Representative DeRees,
No.
Representative Juris,
No.
and the chair.
Yes.
It's 9-7, so the motion carries.
Thank you. So the motion of inexpedient to legislate on House Bill 1609 passes. I assume there will be a minority report for
There,
it.
yes,
Ought to pass as amended with Amendment 0207H.
yes.
Okay, and who will write that report?
Representative Heath, Howard.
Representative Howard. Okay. Thank you very much. And with that, the executive session on House Bill 1609 is closed. And I will reopen the executive session on House Bill 1675. We had a few members upstairs at the other, at our usual meeting room. And so with that, I have moved Amendment 0946H. This amendment requires two reports, one from the Department of Health and Human Services, one from the Department of Justice, and clarifies 91A applies to the coordinator for the Domestic Violence Grant Program. And is there a discussion on this amendment? I believe there should be one sitting on your desk, but if not, I will find that and hand that over to you. Okay. All right, and if,
Madam Chair, I have a question for you.
yes.
As
Representative-
the author of this, can you just kind of run through this real quick and explain? Because I believe it's a replace all.
Yes.
Can you just walk us through it just a little bit?
Yes, yes. This is a replace all amendment. What this does in section 1 is it addresses the coordinator for the Domestic Violence Grant Program, which is administered through the Department of Health and Human Services. The commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Services elects a coordinator to do this and to take on a number of government functions to make sure that victims are appropriately supported and they receive the assistance that we require through our statutes. As this, they are performing a government function. Therefore, my reading of 91A suggests that they are already subject to 91A. But I do know that there is discussion and debate as to whether that is true. By having the grant program coordinator, their direct service grantees and their subcontractors clarified as subject to 91A, that clarifies the transparency that I believe already exists in law. And I believe that that is a good governance move to make sure that the information that is appropriate is available. In 91A, this doesn't just say they're subject to 91A. It specifies that they're subject to the requirements and exemptions of 91A. Adding exemptions really isn't necessary because if they're subject to 91A, they do receive those exemptions. But there's issues around privacy. Right now, the Hampstead Hospital, the New Hampshire Hospital are all state agencies subject to 91A, but individual privacy of patients is protected through the 91A process. It would be no different in applying this to whoever the grant program coordinator is versus our other sensitive uses of information. Then in section 2 and section 3, there are two funds that are absolutely critical to ensuring that victims in our state get the services and the justice that they need and that they deserve. That is the Domestic Violence Grant Program, and that is the Victims Assistance Grant Program. The first is administered through the Department of Health and Human Services under RSA 173B, and this would require an annual report of all the programs pursuant to the fund that would have the terms and conditions of the state grants and federal awards and how those were met or unmet, oversight, monitoring, subrecipient management, and performance evaluations of subcontractors and service providers receiving pass-through funds, procedures and controls for dispersing funds to subcontractors and service providers, including verification of allowable costs and activities, identification, recovery, and reporting of ineligible, improper, or misused expenditures of state or federal funds, public reporting of grant activities, expenditures, outcomes, and use of funds, and demographics of individuals served, service outcomes, effectiveness in achieving program goals related to domestic and sexual violence prevention, intervention, and support services, and any performance metrics required by granting agencies. That language is both for the Domestic Violence Victims Assistance Grant Program through the Department of Health and Human Services and for the Victims Fund in the Department of Justice. This is so that people can see that what has been contracted is happening. And if not, that we can ensure that that is in fact happening. There's been various times where various bills come forward and it's been told in the fiscal note that if we were to actually fulfill the letter of the law, it would cost more money because there are currently people who, for example, don't get access to rape kits, even though they meet the statutory definition for sexual assault. This would just clarify that process. And if the state needs to have more funds in order to make sure that victims get the assistance they need, now we'll have the information to do that. And this is one where simply that transparency and clarity should be a way to make sure that they're all moving forward with our important trusted partners, and that we're able to pierce through some of, we'll get to know if there is fire where there's smoke in a way that is constructive, so that we can make sure that we are in fact also making sure that the state is providing appropriate resources for victims. So that is the intent and the language of this amendment. It is very different than what was introduced with the commission to look into it and that investigation. It doesn't remove the coalition from any positions. It doesn't change any funding. It removes all of those other parts, but it hits to that core issue of all of the people that came and testified, where there are people that said that they were denied services. There are other people that had other confusion. Sunlight is the best answer, and this brings sunlight and clarity as to what the state is doing and the state's partners are doing. And so I believe this is a way to restore, get the information we need, which should be able to restore trust. And by doing that and working together, we can understand what the process is and make sure that people that we need to be assisting and victims that we need to be supporting are appropriately supported. Representative Howard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question. Is 91A are non-governmental agencies and entities subject to 91A?
There are times when they are selected by the commissioners. That is one where they are a public body established in order to fulfill the government requirements.
Okay, and was the coalition formed by that agency?
The coalition has been selected by the Commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Services as the grant program coordinator for the Domestic Violence Grant Program. That is a government function.
Okay.
That's not even done through an executive council contractual approval. This is something that is done at the pleasure of the commissioner. And as such, it arguably should be more transparent than those that are subject to a contract at the executive council. If you were to look at an executive council selecting somebody to operate something for the state, you already have that transparency and that check and balance, because the executive council could also take that away.
Yeah.
When it's simply a commissioner's appointment, we need more sunlight and more transparency.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Representative Groda? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Not a problem. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Okay. He's allowed to hide. That's all right. Thank you. And if there's no further discussion on the amendment, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll on this amendment.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The motion is to adopt Amendment 0946 to House Bill 1675. And Representative Shoshki,
Yes.
Representative Novelko,
It's Nelavenko.
Nelavenko, excuse me,
That's okay. Yes.
Representative Pearson,
Yes.
Representative Bailey,
Aye.
okie dokie, Representative Sellers,
Yes.
Representative Tebow,
Yes.
Representative DeRoy,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
I vote yes. Representative Schmidt,
Yes.
Representative Davis,
Yes.
Representative Dargy,
Yes.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Representative DeVries,
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
Okay, it is.
And the chair.
Oh, the
votes yes.
chair. Sorry.
That's all right. You're out of practice, but I appreciate you serving as our clerk today.
It's 16-0, so it's a unanimous vote.
Thank you. With the amendment 0946H has passed, and I move ought to pass with amendment 0946H on House Bill 1675. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Representative DeRoy. Given that this was a replace all amendment, I'm not sure that there's further discussion. Representative Howard?
Yeah, I mean, I have some concern as to how we are just kind of not necessarily putting as many exemptions into the 91A aspect as I think that we really should. If we were going to pursue this, I also have concerns about a non-governmental entity being subject to 91A. I think that there are a number of concerns related to that. Listening to a number of the victims from, people who are pro and opposed to this legislation, I think that, we need to find a way to help make sure that all victims are being heard. But, and I just don't know if this is necessarily the vehicle to make that happen. So with that, I'm planning on voting against the OTPA motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Representative Kelly?
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like the main thing about this one is the 98% funding, public funding. If I pay tax dollars for this, I'd like sunlight. So I'll be voting yes for that reason.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, I'll have the clerk call the roll.
Thank you. House Bill 1675. It's on a pass with Amendment 0946. Representative Schlotchke.
Yes.
Representative Nevelenko.
Nalavenko, yes.
Excuse me, could you say that again?
Nalavenko.
Okay, I will
Nal.
say it more slowly.
Oh.
Representative Nevelenko. Nalavenko. Okay, I see what I'm doing wrong.
Yes, again.
Okay, I see. Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes no. Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Davis.
No.
Representative Dargy.
No.
Representative Howard.
No.
Representative DeVries.
No.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair, I'm just putting in, and the chair.
Yes.
Okay, it's 10 to 6. There will be a minority report.
Thank you. The motion of ought to pass on House Bill 1675 with Amendment 0946H passes. There'll be a minority report will be inexpedient to legislate.
Yes.
And who will write that report?
Representative Long.
Representative Long. And with that, I'll close the executive session on House Bill 1675. Thank you. Next, we will move to House Bill 1211 relative to the scope of review of state agency interpretations. I'll open that executive session. With that, let me hand out the amendment. Okay, pass this way. This way.
Oh, sorry.
No, not at all.
Next, we're doing 1211. Oh, yes, and I was going to have you move this one.
Oh, Jesus. I left my, you know what? I left my amendment to this upstairs.
So I actually, I have one that has this, just about this same language.
Okay.
It's just the difference of you had the 2, which was in the original bill, and I have it spelled out.
Okay.
Would you like to move this one, Representative? Or I'll move amendment,
Oh, 9.
0906H on House Bill 1211. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Representative Slotchke seconds. So this amendment is one that came from some of the recommendations from the prime sponsor. In one of those, if you look on line 8, the bill initially, instead of the statute, regulation, or sub-regulatory document, said it. So it's been changed to be more clear. And then also there were the question, it includes the change to add this into statutory construction at RSA 21, which had been requested by the prime sponsor. And then additionally, if everybody would take a look at lines 12 through 14 of this bill, of this amendment, instead of saying that it maximizes in actions brought by or against state agencies, after applying all customary tools of interpretation, the court or hearing officer shall resolve any remaining doubt as to legal meaning in favor of a reasonable interpretation that limits agency power, and previously it said maximizes individual liberty. There were some questions from people on the committee about if there's an individual versus an individual. So therefore, this says maximizes liberty for the individuals impacted by restrictions, fees, fines, or civil or criminal action as a result of the state statute, regulation, or other sub-regulatory agency document. That way it clarifies that the tie goes to the individual in the cases when it's the state versus an individual as far as regulatory interpretation. And it does not have any language to play on an individual versus individual conflict there. So I believe that language is more clear than maximizes liberty for the individual. Additionally, I do know that I do know there was a lot more widespread interest in Section 1 of the bill, which is the lines 6 through 9 of this, and I do have another amendment 0902H. If this is not adopted by the majority, that the minority may prefer to move. Well, if this is adopted by the majority, the minority may prefer to move forward with that clean language for the 092. With that other amendment, because I know Representative Grota had drafted one, but OLS didn't give her exactly what she asked for. That's all right. We work together as a team.
Right.
Would you like to speak to your second, Representative Slotchy or Representative Dore?
Oh, I think you covered it quite adequately. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak to this amendment? Seeing none, if the clerk will call the roll.
The motion for House Bill 1211 is to adopt Amendment 0906. Representative Trotsky.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow. Oh, he's not here. Okay. Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grota votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Dargy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative. Wait a minute. Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
Okay, so it's
And
you,
Representative, the chair votes
the chair
yes.
votes yes. Okay, so it's 15-0. The amendment is adopted.
Okay. And I do want to figure out where Representative Tebow went with this. Yes, if you could, that'd be wonderful.
Erica, if you move with TPA, I'll second.
You'll second?
Yeah.
Okay. And will you vote for the TPA?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'll make the motion of ought to pass on House Bill 1211
I'll second.
with amendment 0906H. Thank you. Seconded by Representative Grota.
Yeah.
I just do want to make sure that we have everybody back in the room that we can, so that we're here for the vote.
Doesn't the motion have to be ought to pass with amendment?
Yes.
That's what she said.
Yes.
Oh, I
with
didn't hear
amendment
it that way, okay.
And is there any discussion on this? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So what this bill will do with the amendment is to clarify the Loper-Bright decision, which is where the Chevron deference, where a lot of the judges were going with it, whatever the original interpretation of the agency is, and go to a de novo interpretation consistent with the recent Supreme Court ruling. And if there's no further discussion, when the clerk is ready, I'll have her call the roll.
The motion is ought to pass with amendment 0906 on House Bill 1211. Representative Schlotsky.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grota votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Dargy,
Yes.
Representative Howard,
Yes.
Representative DeVries,
Yes.
Representative Juris,
Yes.
And the chair votes
and the
yes.
chair votes yes. Okay, so it's 16-0, so that the amendment passes, OTPA passes.
So ought to pass with amendment passes. Are there any objections to this going on the consent calendar? Seeing none, that'll go on the consent calendar. Thank you all very much. And with that, the executive session on House Bill 1211 is closed. Next, I will open the executive session on House Bill 1616. Representative DeRoy, did you have an amendment to introduce, which I will pass around?
I do.
Okay, did I see an amendment? No. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Would you like to make a motion for the amendment?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to pass HB 1616 FN.
Were you moving the amendment,
the amendment.
0903H?
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. I will second Representative DeRoy's motion on amendment 0903H. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
Sure. Basically, this is just stating that no state agency or political subdivision would use funds for any advertising of vaccines. That's their job, not ours as taxpayers. It's basically the bottom line.
Thank you. And speaking to my second, this makes clear that education materials that are produced by a state agency or subdivision shall have the risks or benefits printed on them, but it does not say anything about educational materials that are provided by the manufacturer, by the federal department, by nonprofit partners, or anybody else. This is simply a limitation on those educational materials regarding vaccines that are produced by a state agency or political subdivision. Representative Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in terms of the educational materials and the risks that are printed on them, who decides what those risks are?
Well, thank you for the question. So if you look at the FDA approvals of the vaccines, they have the risks that are available. And when you're looking at this and trying to determine whether or not there is a risk, those are already known.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Groda, did you have something?
No, I'm fine. You answered it.
Is there further discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, the
Madam
clerk-
Chair,
yes.
I have,
Representative Pearson.
I'm trying to grapple here with the promote vaccines by any form or means. Do we have a definition on the promote part?
Thank you. I don't have a definition in hand, but I do know that when it comes to oversight of pharmaceutical companies, there is a clear line between the promotion side, which is the sales side for pharmaceutical companies, and the education side, which would be the medical liaisons or others. So there already are well understood lines between the difference between promotion and education. And this is I would expect this to piggyback upon what is done in industry for that difference between promotion and education. If you still have lingering questions, we could recess this at the moment.
No.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's House Bill 1616. The motion is to adopt Amendment 0903. Representative Schlotsky.
Yes.
Representative Nelevenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes no. Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Davis.
No.
Representative Dargy.
No.
Representative Howard,
No.
Representative DeVries,
No,
Representative Juris.
No.
And the chair votes yes.
The chair votes yes. Yes, one, two, three. It's 9-2-7.
And the motion to adopt passes. Would you like to move ought to pass with amendment, Representative Duray?
please.
Thank you. And I'll second that. Is there any further discussion on the bill? Representative Howard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the way that vaccines work is by herd immunity, which is how many people are able to actually get the vaccine. So when we're talking about how we can make our communities safer, part of it is we can promote, the knowledge that there will be a vaccine drive or something going on in our community, because that actively makes us safer. And this includes people who don't actually take the vaccine as well. We're talking about people who are now, surrounding all of us who have that herd immunity. And I think that that's very important when we're looking at the necessary impact that vaccines have on our day-to-day lives. I mean, I think about, the polio vaccine and the impact that that's had on our country, and how, people went from living in iron lungs to not necessarily having to worry about that potential outcome. And I do think that, by limiting the promotion and advertising of vaccine drives and access to them, that we're really limiting the ability for people to have knowledge that something like per se COVID was going on. And I think that we really need to definitely have opportunities for local communities to advertise some of these things. And for that reason, I'm going to be voting against the OTPA motion, and I encourage you all to join me in voting for ITL.
Thank you. Representative Grota, did you have something to say or no?
No.
No. Thank you. Representative DeVries?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The idea that we would stop promoting or advertising vaccines while we're having active measles outbreaks in this country is concerning to me, because of what my friend Representative Howard said, that there is a benefit to others, even if you decide not to take this up yourself. So I would encourage people to vote against this bill for public health reasons.
Thank you very much. I would like to note that this is not a prohibition on all advertising for vaccines or vaccine drives. This is simply a statement that the state and local governments won't be subsidizing the profits of big pharma. This is to make sure that those who make financial profit off of vaccine administration are those who are paying for the advertising. And that's why I'm in strong support of this. Is there further discussion? Representative? No,
Yeah, I would just say this bill really focuses on the educational side of this, if nothing else. And if you're going to make informed consent about whether or not you're going to be involved in vaccination, then I think you need to have, there's a fine line between selling, which is the promotional side of it, and the educational side of it, which is dealing with, hopefully, factual, verifiable information that any consumer needs to make an informed decision and an informed choice. And so I'm voting in favor of this bill because I think the clarification and the focus on this is important. And one comment that was left out of a lot of the discussion, there's a component of herd immunity that has to deal with natural immunity, which is often left out of the discussion. And I think that was one of the key things that was missing in the whole COVID discussion. Was there were obviously people who hadn't taken the vaccine but had contracted COVID, recovered, and had natural immunity as part of the normal process of any kind of spread of the disease. So with that, I'll just say I'm very much in favor of the bill as amended.
Thank you. Representative Pearson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what's ultimately going to happen here is when the Department of Health and Human Services enters into an educational campaign, which they will do, is when this, if this makes it through the process, is going to end up in court. And a court is going to decide the difference between promotion and an educational campaign. I have no problem with educational campaigns, but I do certainly agree that the trillion-dollar pharmaceutical industry certainly should be doing its job to promote its products and not the taxpayers. So I'm going to vote for this, but I hope everybody's prepared for the legal challenges that come from it.
Thank you. And if, thank you, I appreciate that. If there's no further discussion, I'll have the clerk call the roll.
Thank you. The motion is ought to pass with Amendment 0903 on House Bill 1616. Representative Slotchke.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes no. Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Davis.
No.
Representative Dargy.
No.
Representative Howard.
No.
Representative DeVries.
No.
Representative Juris.
No.
And the chair.
Yes.
So it's 9-7. Motion carries.
Thank
There
you.
will be a minority report.
Thank you.
Let me just put all this together on a piece of paper.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I will write the report.
Okay, so the motion of ought to pass on House Bill 1616 with Amendment 0903H passes 9-0. And the minority report of inexpedient to legislate will be written by Representative Grote. And with that, the executive session on House Bill 1616 is closed. Next, we will open up the executive session on House Bill 1788. And Representative DeRoy, did you want to move Amendment 0453H?
Yes, please.
And I will second that. This one was distributed earlier. I
Yes.
did have a few copies made if anybody needs a copy. Yes, let me figure out which folder that's in.
I don't know what I did with it.
There we go. So how many are needed down this side?
You know what? Maybe I should have one for the folder. Just in
Yes.
case. Here you go, Keith.
Are any needed on this side?
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Get my copy.
There we go.
You can share everything.
Oh. There we go. I have a few more. There we go.
Yeah, some more. Same thing.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Representative DeRoy, if you'd like to speak to your motion?
Um,
Or, yeah, you could speak to your motion, or if you could just, yeah. You have to push the microphone.
I thought I did. This requires courts to find that contracts that include DEI-related provisions are void as a matter of law, and it allows citizens to sue public entities and state agencies for engaging in or failing to investigate allegations of contracts that do have DEI-related provisions.
Thank you. And speaking to the second, this amendment addresses a couple of the questions that were raised. In one, it changes from taxpayer to citizen, just to make clear who it is who would have standing. So is there any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, if the clerk would like to call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We're adopting the motion is to adopt Amendment 0453 to House Bill 1788. Representative Slotchke.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes no. Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Davis.
No.
Representative Dargy.
No.
Representative Howard.
No.
Representative DeVries.
Nope.
Representative Long.
No.
I mean, not Long.
Juris.
Juris. Sorry, and the chair.
Yes.
9-7. So the motion carries.
Motion carries. I'll move ought to pass on House Bill 1788 with Amendment 0453H. And would you like to second that, Representative Duroy?
I second.
Thank you. So with this is something that clarifies what is in our statutes and has been subject to the courts. This is to bring that transparency and ensure that everybody is in fact treated equally, as opposed to treated as somebody as a member of a subgroup. So, is there anybody else who would like to speak? Seeing none, if the clerk would like to call the roll.
Yes. The motion is ought to pass with amendment 0453 on House Bill 1788. Representative Schlotchka.
Yes.
Representative Nelevenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes no. Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Davis.
No.
Representative Dargy.
No.
Representative Howard.
No.
Representative DeVries.
No.
Representative Juris.
No.
And the chair.
Yes.
9-7.
So the motion of ought to pass on House Bill 1788 with Amendment 0453H passes 9-7. I assume there'll be a minority report.
Yes, and I don't know who that will be right now.
Okay. We'll need to have that before we're done today.
Okay.
Thank you. And with that, I'll close the executive session on House Bill 1788. Next, I will open up the executive session on CACR 26. And I would remind everybody that right now there is a pending motion of inexpedient to legislate that was made by myself and seconded by Representative Grote. We did recess this because we had wanted to give a little bit more time. Representative Howard, would you like to speak?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. CACR 26, I think, is especially relevant right now. As we saw after the Iranian strikes, New Hampshire National Guard troops have been activated. We don't know necessarily where they're being deployed quite yet. That information is not clear. But it is my opinion that, these are troops that are meant to be here in New Hampshire. And when we're talking about HB 104, which is the Defend the Guard bill, it's a statute. This is a constitutional amendment, which I think holds higher weight and higher regard for what we need to see happen. I think that, it's very, very clear to me that, we need to protect our guardsmen, keep them here, make sure that we have people here ready to go if we have a natural disaster. I mean, as I mentioned previously, states like Louisiana in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit, they did not have troops. They did not have certain equipment that should have been in the state, but were not because they were over in the Middle East. And I have a number of concerns related to how things are being approached right now, obviously, but this allows a certain opportunity for there to be a check and balance on the governor and where they're deployed. I know that there were some concerns also raised about the executive council putting a blanket ban on any sort of deployments. And, I think that we also have to think about the instance of when the governor may not necessarily deploy troops when we have a natural disaster here at home. And the thing is that it is their responsibility, is their duty to take care of the citizenry. And that is where, if we have executive counselors blanket banning any sort of deployment, I mean, that I think is grounds for removal, which we had a hearing on Friday or so to impeach Councilor Leah Hill. And I think that is something where, if this were to happen, and if we had something happen where one of those counselors or, those counselors blanket banning any action from taking place, were to see something happen, they should then also be impeached. And that's something where we have due process, we have actionable items, and this is something where we'll have a proper check and balance on the executive branch, and I think that that's very important. So I would encourage you to join me in helping overturn the ITL and OTP this CACR. Thank you.
Thank you. While I am also a supporter of Defend the Guard, I do think that there are just some fundamental execution issues from the CACR, and I thank you for bringing it forward, but I'm not ready to vote positively on this. So is there any further discussion on the pending inexpedient to legislate motion on this bill, on the CACR? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
The motion is ITL on CACR 26. Representative Slotchy.
Yes.
Representative Nelevenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Nay.
Nay. Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy,
Yes.
Representative Kelly,
Yes.
Representative Groter votes yes. Representative Schmidt,
Yes.
Representative Davis,
Yes.
Representative Dargy,
Yes.
Representative Howard,
No.
Representative DeVries,
Nope.
Representative Juris,
Yes.
and the chair.
Yes.
It is 13-3.
The motion passes 13-3. There have been bills with 3 in opposition on the consent calendar. Is there an objection to putting this on consent?
I'll object.
Okay, thank you. So this will be on the regular calendar. Are you writing a minority report of ought to pass?
I will.
Oh, it's passed with amendment. I imagine what you're.
Oh, no, he had,
Oh, I have to. No, no. I understand, but we can provision for if you have an amendment. I don't believe that we will.
I'm sorry, could you turn on your microphone?
I don't believe that we'll have an amendment based off my conversations with some other interested stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
So
can I just have a
Representative
clarification?
Greta.
So this is not going on the consent calendar. You are writing a minority report.
That is correct.
And the motion will be OTP.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, the executive session on CACR 26 is closed. Next, we will open the executive session on House Bill 1438, requiring mental health caseworkers to report instances of animal abuse by their clients. This has a pending ITL motion from Representative Grota and myself. There has been an amendment drafted. Did you want to withdraw your motion, Representative Grota?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
And I'll withdraw my second. Representative Kelly, did you want to move, or who wanted to move the amendment? Representative Kelly, did you want to move the amendment? And do we have a copy of this yet?
The amendment. You should have the amendment.
We do. Just a moment. We do have an amendment because it was sent.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have the printed copies?
I do have. Let me just go back in my briefcase. Just one
Okay.
moment.
Thank you. Well, let's give ourselves a 1-minute recess to find that. Yes, we're about to hand that out. And we're back from that brief recess. Oh, we have 1 copy. So I will recess the executive session on that. I will send an email to have, do you have the thing to send an email? I'll send an email to get copies from House Committee Services. Actually, let's recess again. I'll do that and let me send that.
The amendment is from Representative DeRoy, and it just changes one word.
Okay. So
It's not
a
complicated one.
it's not a complicated one, but we'll wait until we have the copy in front of us. So with that, I will recess the executive session on House Bill 1438. And I will open the executive session on House Bill 1004. And I will look to myself to make an interim motion of interim study.
I'll second.
And that's seconded by Representative Grota. So this is the bill that would exempt up to 4 units from the automatic sprinklers. This is something that could lower the cost of building, especially because when you're not on city water, you would then need to have a cistern in order to build. However, there are complications that we need to deal with on this because we did pass the allowance to have a single stairway for up to 4 units. This is something where I would like the time to work with stakeholders on this in order to have language for an appropriately built firewalled townhouse style option for up to four units without sprinklers. And that's why I'd like to have an interim study so we can see if we can come to a good, safe agreement that can provide more affordable housing that does not complicate people, does not add life safety risks. So would you like to speak to your second?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to discuss this bill before we vote? Seeing none, the clerk can call the roll.
The motion is interim study on House Bill 1004. Representative Slushy.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Darcy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 17-0. How about 16-0? Is that better? Yeah, 16-0.
That's wonderful. Are there any objections to the consent calendar? Seeing none, this will go on the consent calendar, and I'll close the executive session on House Bill 1004. And with that, I will open the executive session on House Bill 1312 relative to the authority of various boards. I'll move amendment 0390H, which was distributed about a month and a half ago, and I will find my extra copies to distribute to everybody.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. And do we need just 3 copies down the left side on this?
Do you have what's the amendment number?
It's amendment 0390H.
Uh-huh.
So this bill was one that came forward from some of the issues that were raised during CACR about some of the details where we hadn't fully cleaned up the statutes or there was something that was lingering. What this amendment does is this also brings that similar viewpoint that was in section 1 of the bill around allowing subcommittees for boards under OPLC. So what this amendment does is that it makes clear that there can be board subcommittees with approval of the executive director. And so would you like to speak to your second? And so with that, is there any further discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, I'll have the clerk call the roll.
The motion is to adopt amendment number 0390H to House Bill 1312. Representative Slushy.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Darcy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
16, it's unanimous, carries.
The motion to adopt passes, and I think this is moving this well. I will move ought to pass on House Bill 1312 with amendment 0390H.
And I'll second.
Represented by Representative Grote. So this is a bill that identified a few issues to clean up as rules were being adopted. There is some language around around the prescriptions with optometrists. This is clearing up language because in the past there were some schools that didn't teach how to use the pharmaceuticals. Now they do. This is just cleaning up some legacy language that is no longer needed and no longer used because there's no rulemaking around the adoption of, there's no rulemaking authority around this. So this is just a simple cleanup type bill. And if there's any questions, we can take those or we can move forward. Would you like to speak to your second?
No, thank you.
Thank you. And if there's no further discussion, we'll have the clerk call the roll.
Thank you. The motion is ought to pass with amendment 0390 to House Bill 1312. Representative Slushy.
Yes.
Representative nope. Nalavenko.
Yes.
Okay. Representative Pearson.
Thank you for pronouncing my last name correctly.
You're welcome. Is that a yes?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Darcy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
Okay, 16-0.
With the motion of ought to pass on House Bill 1312 with amendment 0390H passing 16-0, is there any objection to the consent calendar? Seeing none, it'll go on consent, and I'll close the executive session on House Bill 1312. I will reopen House Bill 1438. And thank you very much for getting these copies printed. I will distribute these. I think that's enough this way.
Thank you.
We are.
Bless you.
Okay. All right. And once this goes around, if Representative DeRoy wants to move her amendment.
Yes, I'd like to move this amendment 2026-09-10H. Basically what this says,
And I'll second that.
okay.
And now you can speak to your motion.
Basically what this does is just changes one word in this whole thing from shall to may report.
Okay.
So this is on animal abuse, healthcare workers, and giving them the ability to be able to report if they knew that there was any animal abuse when they're sitting with whoever their client might be.
Thank you. Representative Grota?
Yes, there's also a change on line 16 that says that from it changes it on line 9, the duty may be discharged by, and on line 16 of the amendment, it says the report may be done by. Am I looking at the right amendment? Yeah.
This is not the right amendment.
Oh.
I don't remember that because it's got circled done on there.
Well, I'm the one who circled. This is my copy, and I compared them verbatim from the bill, and that was the only difference. Where did you see shall? If you look at the original bill,
The original bills was shall, we turned it to may, or we added may.
Can you
Line
turn your
6.
microphone on?
okay, it's at
This
the
is
end of
not the
line
same one.
6. It says may.
May.
Okay, and let's just check to see if it's here. And it's here. The shall has been changed to may,
Yes.
but then it changes the word done, discharge. I mean, I don't have an issue with. Yeah, but that's the way. I mean, that's the way the amendment came out.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. I just
Are
circled
you
it.
sure now?
I am positive.
'Cause I don't remember
So I just want to
that.
make sure that we are aware of that change.
Right.
And does that change do anything? In my eyes, it doesn't. But
And with this, then there becomes the question, could we change this amendment so that it is just amending the 330-A1 inserted by this and just do that section? Because if we could do that, I don't know if Brad, if you could get a determination on that, if we could do this to amend, on line 8, amend RSA 330-A, colon 36, comma, Roman 1, sorry, that's more complicated than changing the done to a discharge, as was originally in the bill.
so do you want to keep the done, or do you want to put the discharge back in? I'm asking the question.
I'm ambivalent between that. If
I
you
don't really
prefer
ca-
the discharge language, that's how we might be able to work that.
Or we can just the amendment that Representative Roy just moved does change the shall to may, which was the key thing in the amendment, right? And then the amendment also has this funny change that has gone from discharge to done, and I'm okay with the done. So I'm okay with this amendment. I'm willing to go with this amendment if you are. And I'm looking at you.
Yes.
Okay.
Could you push the microphone?
There's something else, or maybe it got spoken about already, but in the version that I have originally, it says the
Hold on one
duty,
second. If you could wait, I'll recognize you in a moment.
it says
Representative
the
Bailey?
duty may be discharged in the original version I have, whereas this is talking about the report may be done.
That's right.
That is
Oh.
a substantive change.
Yes.
So I didn't know if we were talking about other things, but there's that change too.
That is a big change. I think that we probably should ask to have an amendment drafted that's just a change to that section 1, that Roman 1. So Brad, would you be able to do that for us? Thank you. Representative Howard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, I'm just kind of concerned as to, also if we were also to leave out section 3 or Roman numeral 3, the no monetary liability or cause of action again, concerning private clients. Is that something that we want to include as well in the amendment?
Oh, thank you. I was looking at how to draft it, that if we were to just simply draft to replace Roman 1 as inserted by section 1 to read with the may.
Okay, understood.
Or if however they want to get one where the only change is to the may and not any change to Roman 2. So, or 3.
All right.
So with that, I will recess this one.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Sorry. Yes. Actually, Representative Reese?
Do you mind? I have a question on this with regard to this amendment. There was testimony given by, and I'm paraphrasing here, the Therapists Association, that they were against this bill. They said it didn't include all mental health providers, and while they said the goals were admirable, it didn't get over the hurdle of confidentiality and would violate federal HIPAA law. And so I'm just curious, when I read this, I don't think that those concerns have been addressed, but maybe I'm reading it incorrectly. Does anyone have an opinion or thoughts on that?
Representative Greta?
Yes, I had those comments in my notes as well, and I did reach out. Those comments were made by John DeJoy, and when I spoke with Lynn Stanley, she was okay with this bill and this language, and actually the state of Ohio has passed this, and the result is that they have not seen an increase in reporting, but they also support the reporting. So I would consider that as part of the professional opinion.
Thank you.
By the way,
Yep. Oh,
we okay with,
the vice chairman's going to speak with him about what the changes should be.
exactly, I think he may have
Yes.
gotten away before the final syllable was enunciated.
Thank you. No, he's following with that. No, so as far as you were saying, you were stating that this is something where they had wanted to have some larger changes, but some is acceptable even if it's not all.
Right.
So anybody who thinks that it needs to apply to everybody throughout the whole one may vote not to pass this for that reason. But we are going to wait on getting the correct amendment. So I will recess the executive session on House Bill 1438. And this moves us all the way to House Bill 1519. I'll open that executive session relative to the term of office and mandatory retirement age for the Adjutant General for the Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services. Is there somebody who would like to make a motion on this?
I'll move ITL on House Bill 1519.
I'll second.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, sure. I think although it's I can understand what the concerns were, I don't believe that the changes are necessary or effective. So I would hope that the committee would support the amendment of the motion of ITL.
Would you like to speak to your second?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, the way it was drafted, it actually could extend the length, not reduce the length of existence, if you will, of that person, because it added a tenure of 4 years or. So if the idea was to reduce it a year to 64, you've actually made it possible for them to be up to 68. So I don't think this did exactly what the intent was, and I'm not convinced in any way this is necessary. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on House Bill 1519? No. Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion is ITL on House Bill 1519. Representative Slushy.
Yes.
Representative, Nelevenko.
Yes.
Well, it wasn't written here and I got a little
Well,
bit nervous there.
I must commend you. You're doing a lot better
Am
than a
I
lot of my
doing-
in-laws.
Okay. Don't confuse me. Representative Pearson.
Yes on the ITL.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Groto votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Darcy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
Okay, 16-0, the motion passes.
And with the motion passing 16-0, is there any objection to the consent calendar? Seeing none, this will go on consent. Thank you. We'll close the executive session on House Bill 1519. Next, yes, and that's Representative Grota.
Right.
Thank you. Next, I will open the executive session on House Bill 1617 relative to enhancing business development and economic investment opportunities. Representative DeRoy, did you have a motion?
I did. I have a motion to put this in interim study.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Representative Grota. Would you like to speak to your motion, Representative DeRoy?
I just think it needs work.
It needs work.
It needs work.
Thank you. Representative Grota?
It's always interesting, but it's not quite ready for prime time here.
Thank you. Then when you're ready, I'll have you call the roll.
Okay, the motion is interim study on House Bill 1617. Representative Slushy.
Yes.
Representative Nelevenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Groto votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Darcy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
16-0, the motion carries.
And with that, the motion of inexpedient to interim study passes. Is there any objection to the consent calendar? Seeing none, that'll go on consent. Thank you, and I'll close the executive session on House Bill 1617. Next, I will open the executive session on House Bill 1407, enabling veterinary technicians to provide rabies vaccinations while indirectly supervised by a veterinarian. Representative Kelly, did you have an ought to pass motion on this?
Yeah, I would love to move to pass on this bill. Can I speak to it?
Yes, and I'll second that. And yes, you can speak to that motion.
I feel at this point that from everyone I've spoken to, most vet techs are already doing this. They are not supervised in the sense that the vet isn't in the room, but they're doing it already. And I've spoken with numerous vet techs and veterinarians in many other states, and it's already happening. So I feel like this bill just assists in allowing that to go forward legally.
Thank you. And Representative DeVries?
Yeah, if I to call back to the testimony on this, the veterinarians, there may be one or two who oppose this for the reason, or at least the stated reason, that there was no board or licensing body for vet techs in New Hampshire right now. So Mike, that's my only concern why I'll be voting. Is that incorrect?
Wasn't there an amendment?
Thank you. No, I never saw an amendment. And if we were to create a board or put that into statute, that's something that would be pretty significant and would need to have a hearing
I thought
on that.
Representative Long, at least he was working on one that
No,
was just.
May I stand?
Yeah, Representative
So
Groden.
there is a statute that identifies what a vet tech is, isn't there? We saw this, I saw this.
It's it's the administrative rules lay out the requirements for it. It's
Right.
not mandated that you have those requirements, but there's no prohibition from being a veterinary technician there's no prohibition for assisting in a vet's office without this. But the term of veterinary technician is defined in administrative rule with the qualifications to serve as that. And in fact, the requirements in the administrative rules have actually changed in this year, is now going to require anybody operating under the name of a veterinary technician to have certain schooling. So the professionalization of veterinary technicians has already happened in rules. It simply hasn't happened in statute. So this would still allow veterinarians who want to have somebody working in their office, but not under the name of veterinary technicians.
I believe that's what the amendment was about, making
That's
it.
exactly what it was, if I could. Yeah, the amendment was about that, but because we knew that it was in rules, we did not need the amendment.
Oh.
We don't want to have something in statute that might conflict with something in rules at a later time, right? So it is in rules, it is defined, there are requirements, and therefore we don't need it in the bill. It just, because the bill identifies it as a vet tech, and a vet tech is someone who has to meet these requirements per the rules, then under the board, we're okay.
It wasn't about specific schooling and a certification?
Yes, it is. It's in rules for that.
With a certification?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I would just like to point out, because this is a momentous, a big moment for me, I have been convinced.
Thank you. I appreciate you listening to the debate and coming to a change of mind. I greatly appreciate that. Representative Nalavenko?
Yeah, for what it's worth, I'll just add 2 cents. I have a daughter that's a
Oh,
vet.
you just turned that off.
Oh, I turned it off. I have a daughter that's a vet in the Upper Valley, and I talked to her about this. And in fact, this goes on, whether or not you pass it or not, it goes on as practice. And at the end of the day, the veterinarian has responsibility, has direct responsibility for what's going on in that given practice. So to a certain extent, this is kind of like, icing on the cake. But okay. But, there's my 2 cents, so I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you. Is there a further debate? Seeing none, I'll have the clerk call the roll.
Thank you. The motion is ought to pass for House Bill 1407. Representative Slosky.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Now I'm a yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Dargy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
16-0, the motion carries.
And is there any objection to putting this on consent? Seeing none, Representative Kelly, you'll write the report, and I will close the executive session on House Bill 1407. I will open the executive session on House Bill 1261 relative to the Administrative Procedure Act, and I will move interim study on this bill.
I'll second.
Thank you. The reason for my motion of interim study is we had some good discussion about the potential for clarifying what legislative intent is
was
between
me.
the vacation period and the sickness period that so many of us unfortunately dealt with over vacation. We weren't really able to get to any solid language. This committee is already in possession of the twin bill coming from the Senate on this. And by interim studying this bill now, we still have this exact same language coming forward. We either will be able to come to a determination on legislative intent within the same language in the partner bill from the Senate, or we won't. But we will be making sure that we move forward with the clarification and that we're able to basically take this essence on. So this is not an end to this language. This is simply saying that we will work with the partner bill that has come over from the Senate. Is there any further discussion on interim study for this bill? Representative Grote?
Yes, I just want to say that we did discuss this with the Director of Administrative Rules, and they are supportive of that motion, so we want to make sure that everybody's happy with the decision. I can assure you they are. In
Okay.
agreement.
I've not told anybody that they're sad about this choice, so we'll be able to move forward with the language. Thank you, and if there's no further discussion, we will I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you. The motion is interim study on House Bill 1261. Representative Slotchy.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Dargy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
16-0. The motion carries.
Seeing the motion passes 16-0, is there any objection to consent? Seeing none, we'll put this on the consent calendar and I'll close the executive session on House Bill 1261. I will open the executive session on House Bill 1286 relative to the practice of dentistry and when x-rays are required. Representative Sellers, did you have a motion for an amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a motion for amendment 2026-0914H for House Bill 1286.
Thank you, and I will second that. And could you pass that amendment around?
I did already.
Oh, you already did. Perfect.
Yes, everybody should have
It's
that.
I just want to make sure it's amendment
09
0914H.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And would you like to speak to your amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This bill does actually a few things. So one, it protects the patient, all right, and it still allows the patient to get an work done on their teeth, even without an X-ray. That's one thing it does. The second thing it does, it protects the dentist. The dentist can still deny to do the work if they want to, or they can do the work without the X-ray. And the second part of the dentist, it actually protects them from any license suspension or anything like that because they did the work without the X-ray. So overall, not having this this X-ray still allows the patient to get the work and still protects the dentist at that point. And it also is up to the dentist at that point to create a waiver form at that point for the patient to sign off on.
Thank you. And then, thank you. Sorry, my microphone is off. We did within this as well. This does remove the requirement, the language that was around they can do this and they can waive it as long as it's not violating the standards of care. Is that correct? Yes.
That's correct.
And that's an important one because having these x-rays at a certain period is within that standard of care. The intention of this bill and with this amendment is that there are some people who do not want to have this frequency of dental x-rays. And right now, dentists are prohibited from providing them care because that is a violation of the standard of care. The question really before us is, do we want to allow people who are refusing those x-rays to get some dental care, or do we want to deny them all dental care in the state of New Hampshire? I am on this amendment because I do believe that it's important to allow that care which they're willing to receive and that dentists are willing to provide. We do have a letter from the Board of Dental Examiners just concerned about the conflict in the underlying bill itself. Because if we were to say that you don't have to have the x-rays unless it conflicts with standard of care, it does conflict. So I believe that the amendment does address that concern that was raised by the Dental Board of Examiners. So I don't know if there's further discussion on this amendment. Representative Nalavenko?
I just have one anecdotal story. I'm old enough to remember, and some of you in the room are probably old enough when x-rays first came out. You used to go to a shoe store, put your feet in a machine, you could see all the bones in your machine. And as a result of, so I'm somebody that's not big on being overexposed to x-rays, so I can appreciate the intent of this bill to make sure people get proper dental care and have a legitimate concern about exposure to x-rays more than they need to.
Thank you.
That was the funnest experience of my life, to stick my machine and just.
You used to have to stand in line,
Bones in
Peter.
there.
You used to have to stand in line, Peter, at the shoe store to
Yes.
Remember it well.
And on my 20 millionth x-ray as the broken bone bandit in 6th grade with 6 different breaks by that age, my mom would tell me about swallowing the barium to watch people do that when this is all new and novel. So, yes, that's all right. Knowledge increases. Is there's any Representative Pearson?
Yeah, I was a radiation safety officer for Oklahoma State University. I had a 500 lab facility. I have a lot of experience in dealing with X-rays, along with some other more interesting stuff. But no, X-rays have come a long way. The dosage today is 100th in most cases of what it was when they were checking out your feet for shoe fitment. I was very skittish on this bill when it first came out due to some of the conflicting languages, but or the conflicting parts in reference to the standard of care and the ethical code and the American Dental Association and the conflicts that they're going to have. But with this amendment and the idea that we are not telling the dentists what to do, and it's their option to not have a patient or deny someone to be a patient if they refuse x-rays, I no longer have a conflict with that. So I'm in favor of the rewrite amendment to this bill, and I do understand the concerns that people do have with radiation exposure, as I lived 2.1 miles away from 3 Mile Island when it had its incident. So so with that, I'm going to support the rewrite.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment, Representative Howard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I mean, I have some concerns about this because, I mean, for starters, I'm not really too sure what the impact is if a dentist denies somebody access, because if I mean, x-rays are one of the critical tools that they use to help diagnose some of the problems in the first place. So if we're not able to understand what's going on, then there might be a misdiagnosis. And I mean, I understand that's why we have the waiver, but I'm just kind of concerned as to, you know, if there would be potential course of action that would be able to be taken against a dentist because of somebody saying, oh, well, I wasn't given the proper care because the dentist didn't want to move forward. So I'm just kind of curious as to what the impact would be on that front.
Thank you for that. So right now, with the way that state law is written, a dentist is violating the law and violating their licensing requirements if they see a patient who does not consent to these x-rays. They're unable to provide them care because state law tells them that they're unable to provide that care. So while it is best practice to make sure that you're getting those x-rays, this is a question of if we're allowing dentists in some scenarios when they're comfortable with the waiver to provide treatment to people who otherwise would not be able to receive care within the state. So I recognize your concerns, but this is one that simply allows those dentists to treat those patients without the state saying that they are prohibited from doing so. Representative DeVries.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The concern, Madam Chair, rather, the concern that I had previously was it sounded like that because of the conflict that there was a violation that would give rise to a cause of action. I don't love the way that this is constructed right now. And the reason that I don't is because even in the amendment, it says, the dentist may require, is that the right one? Or no, sorry. I'm going to get to it. The dentist shall require the patient to sign a waiver of liability indicating that the patient waives the right to sue, which is not the same thing as actually waiving a cause of action. It's saying that the patient has to sign something that waives a cause of action. Now, there may be that the courts would defer to this. However, it's I don't love the construction. I'm still going to support the bill, but I don't think it's particularly well constructed.
Thank you. Representative Pearson?
I think one of the things that this does is that it makes the dental practice come up with that waiver, right? We're not mandating what the waiver says. It's not a state form. It's not a one size fits all, as we know how how disastrous some of those things have become. So in the case of CYA, if you will, I think that's really up to the practice to employ the overabundance of attorneys that we have in New Hampshire to come up with language that satisfies their concerns about being sued. So I think we're not meddling in that, and I think that's probably the best thing we can do with that.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, I'll have the clerk call the roll.
The motion is to adopt Amendment 0912 to House Bill 1286. Representative
Sorry,
Slotchy.
is that 0914?
What did I say?
You said 0912.
Oh, that's because my 2 looks like a 4.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my 4 looks like, excuse me, I'm going to say that. The motion is to adopt Amendment 0914H to House Bill 1286. Representative Slotchy.
Yes.
Representative Nedelevenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Dargy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
16 to nothing.
The adoption is, the amendment is adopted 16-0. Representative Sellers, would you like to move on to pass with the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would like to move on to pass with the amendment on 1286, House Bill.
Thank you, and I'll second that. Would you like to speak to that motion?
I think, Madam Chair, I think we've already talked it through at this point.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, when ready?
Okay. Wait a minute. I don't have the right sheet.
Now, we are moving at lightning speed, so we want to make
Okay.
sure the clerk has a chance to get
Thank
everything
you. The
written
motion is
correctly.
ought to pass with amendment 0914H. Representative Slotchy.
Yes.
Representative Nedelevenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes no. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Dargy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
No.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
It is,
And the chair
oh, and the
votes
chair,
yes.
yes, there we go. And we're 14 to 2, and we can, I will not object to consent. You?
Okay. And seeing no objections to the consent calendar, this will go on consent. Ought to pass with amendment 0914H, and that closes the executive session on House Bill 1286. Next, I will open the executive session on House Bill 1506, creating an exemption to the restricted uses of artificial intelligence by state agencies. Representative Grote, I believe you have an amendment, but I'll let you find that.
Thank you. Yes, I did pass out an amendment to everyone. It is amendment 0609. And you might recall that when Representative Cormer, actually,
Would you
I
like-
don't have a
yeah.
second. Do I have, I'm moving amendment 0609, and no one joined me. Representative Schmidt. Okay. But I would like to, do you want to say something, Representative Howard? No, okay. So during the, last year, you might recall that Representative Corman brought us a bill that we passed, which basically said that there would be no human interference with AI in our systems. Oh, actually, could I ask Representative Corman to explain this? Because this is sort of, or you feel uncomfortable with that?
Yes, I think we can have Representative Corman do that, and I think discussing what's in this amendment and what it is that we have in front of
Yeah.
us. I'm not sure that we're all going to be moving forward on the amendment,
okay.
but let's
Yeah.
at least discuss what the amendment has here,
Yes, thank you.
especially since we are waiting for that other amendment to come,
Right.
because we only have this and the mental
Okay.
health one.
Thank you,
Representative
Chair
Corman.
Leon. When I testified on this bill, it was really applying to the entirety of RSA 5D, which was HB 1688, which went through this committee 2 years ago. And I have come to understand that there were some concerns about the broad applicability of this bill that allows for a process for exemptions to these restrictions on AI. So what this amendment does is it restricts the exemption process to just one part of RSA 5D. That part being the part that says if AI is making a decision or recommendation that cannot be undone, then the appropriate human has to be in the loop. And the concern that caused me to think about this exemption is a situation where, let's say, our state computer systems are under attack, and we need something like AI to help fend off the attack. Well, in a case like that, the AI is making potentially hundreds of decisions a second, and you're not going to be able to have a human in the loop effectively. And if anything, the danger of this has just increased. I mean, I was listening to WMUR this morning, and they talked about the prospect of additional cyber attacks on systems in the US as retaliation for the strikes in Iran. So the idea of this amendment is to say, if AI is making a decision or recommendation that can't be undone, we have an exception mechanism that says the appropriate human need not be in the loop. And it still goes through the same process as the original bill, where the appropriate commissioner makes a request to the commissioner of IT. The commissioner of IT, if he or she approves it, then it goes to the executive council. So there's still the same checkpoints, but the amendment restricts it to just this one part of RSA 5D.
Thank you. Representative Slotchie, do you have any questions?
Just so I understand what the amendment does, we're looking to create an exemption to 5D such that, and I'm trying to factor in how like a cyber attack would factor into that. The bill itself creates this exemption. The amendment modifies it in what way?
Thank you. The amendment, well, the original bill says that this exception mechanism can apply to anything in RSA 5D. And the amendment restricts it to RSA 5D Section 4, Paragraph 1. And that is the paragraph that talks about a decision or recommendation that can't be undone. It's restricted to just that, so nothing else in 5D would have this exception mechanism. For example, there's a prohibition against public surveillance without a warrant. Public surveillance for the purpose of identification without a warrant. There would still, with this amendment, there would still be no exception mechanism to that part of 5D. The only part of 5D that would have this exception mechanism is the decision or recommendation that can't be undone.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I,
How about
Representative Gerda?
yes, I have a request from a member of my caucus to caucus.
Thank you. I was going to actually request a caucus as well.
Okay.
So how much time should we give?
Well, since one of them, oh, there he is. Okay, let's say we need maybe 10 minutes. Does that make
Back at 1 o'clock, about 3 o'clock is good. That's
Let's
12
be back
12
by
minutes.
3, so all the Democrats will meet in the hallway. How's that?
Okay. Thank you. And we're going into caucus. All right. Welcome back. Okay. Welcome back. We will come out of recess on House Bill 1506. We had done that for a caucus. Representative Slotchi, did you want to tell us some of what you see with this amendment and where it's narrowing it down to?
Okay, I can tell you what I think this does, and I welcome anyone to disagree with me and set me straight. So as I see this amendment, it focuses the scope of the original legislation to Section 5D4(1) or I. That section being the section that governs the unchangeable outcome impact of a decision that might be made by AI. In my opinion, that's the most important to protect from exemption. So it's unclear to me what this amendment does in a positive way. It sort of focuses it on the section of the law that I would assume would have the most scrutiny in terms of denying an exception. So if I'm not understanding that correctly, I'd love to hear it. And otherwise, I don't know that the example of that was given of a sort of denial of service attack occurring is an adequate example, because in those scenarios, everyone is denied access to the website anyways because it's under attack. You can't get there. So there's much more concerning examples where AI can be used to either determine, if someone is denied benefits or someone is denied service, or, if say the 911 system was automated with AI, if a police officer is dispatched to someone's house. Those are much more concerning examples, and examples in which I hope there are no exemptions to this the original law, which is that AI is not to make these decisions. So those are my general concerns, and I'd love to hear anyone who disagrees.
Representative Schmidt?
So I certainly want to hear from Representative Corman about this, because I share your concern, but I don't think that's how this would work. But I think it's a situation where, as he said, the AI is the only one that can deal with it as fast as it's happening, because we know that the system is being attacked, right? We're being attacked here in our legislature and our state government probably thousands of times a day, if it's not thousands of times an hour. I mean, it's just unbelievable how much it is. And it can't be done by a human being that fast. And the idea was originally, as I understand it, there had to be a human being involved if it was a decision on the part of an AI that would be undoable. But because it's so fast, the human being would just be, it's like anything else. Something that is a visual thing. If you slow it down like a bullet hitting a target, right? You can't see it with the naked eye. All you can see is the hole that's left, right? But if you slow it down enough, you can see the actual bullet flying and going through. So that's an example of this kind of speed that human beings cannot follow, and only the AI can do it. So in that situation, as I understand it, that is exempt from the requirement to have a human being make the call because not capable of it. But I think we have to hear from the person who knows the most about it, which would be Representative Corman.
Representative Howard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of the exemptions that are brought up, I mean, we have this bill going through, or this exemption, and any exemption going through 6 people. We have the Department of Information Technology Commissioner, and as well as the Executive Council looking at approving any of these actions. And I think that level of scrutiny, if we have executive counselors saying that it's okay to pursue this, I would side on the I would side with the executive counselors. I think that they have a good understanding as to the needs of the state and the needs of the department, and by allowing the department to utilize some of these counteractive measures to prevent an AI attack, I think that that would be beneficial. Because I mean, a denial of service is just one type of attack that they could pursue. I mean, there are a number of other options that they could be using and utilizing. I mean, they could be flooding our inboxes per se, with spam emails. There could be a number of, automations that, if we had an AI taking care of some of that, that might help kind of alleviate some of the pressure there that our systems are facing. So in terms of, how this is handled, I mean, obviously I would like to hear more from Representative Corman as Representative Schmidt suggested, to be able to kind of answer some of those questions as well. So thank you.
Representative Dargy and then Representative Nalawonka.
Yeah, my understanding is that normally a system would not be allowed to have an AI do something that's irreversible. That's without a human intervention. But if there's an attack, it needs to have something happen right away, and AI can only handle it. And it may end up being something that's irreversible. So they may have to ask for an exemption ahead of time, even to allow for AI to do an irreversible act under certain circumstances to protect the system.
Thank you, Representative Nalawonka, and then Representative
Yeah,
Slotkin.
I'm not sure, and Representative Corman can comment as well. I think we just recently heard of a real life example of this, and that's the 3 jets that were shot down by Kuwait in the current. I don't know if anybody's followed that, but it resulted in an AI driven system that theoretically was put on autopilot. I mean, it theoretically should have had human intervention because there was other communications that would have told them those 3 jets coming in were friendlies. So there's a real life example of an irreversible decision, I think, taken by an AI driven model system. So I think I'd probably side with what Representative Slotky is saying here. This may be that this particular section may not be the right place to try to have the exception.
Representative Slotky and then Representative Pearson.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly clarify. My qualm is more with the example because I don't think it creates a situation in which there is an outcome that can't be reversed. In terms of if you're visiting the website or sending an email, you just try back later or send another email. So I'm out of examples that give me the warm, fuzzy feeling that this won't be used in some way that I wouldn't want it to be used. So if you gave eloquent examples of, I think, what was described earlier, it's just, in my opinion, and perhaps it's just my opinion, those examples don't rise to the level of irreversible. So what would, and what would be a good reason to grant an exemption, if that helps?
Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To use an Old West term, I very much agree that we do not want to be bringing a knife to a gunfight. And the theoretical discussion that's occurred here, I agree with. But that's great in and of itself. What does this do? And I still am not convinced as to what this does. So I can't vote for something that I'm not fully understanding, and that's kind of where I'm at with this right now. I just don't. I can read the words on the page, and I can see the layers and steps that need to be gone through, right? Because it does go through a procedure, which does end up with the executive council, and that's great. But I don't know how this handcuffs things. I don't know how with RSA 5, I don't even know what the entirety of RSA 5 looks like. Is this in the right spot? Does this allow something we don't want it to allow? Does this prohibit something we might not want to prohibit? I don't have it here. I just don't have the sales pitch right now. So And that's where I'm at. There's just too much confusion.
Thank you. I recognize having 6 people oversee it is one thing. I'd prefer 425 people oversee the changes. If this was something saying about allowing AI to counter cyber attacks, that would be something I'd be a lot more willing to go along with. But I just see the open field for this to be used in dangerous ways in the future, I think is far too much for me. And I appreciate your attempt to try and do that. Is there anything that you wanted to share with the committee in regards to what we had said? And we just got the amendment for the mental health one for animal abuse that's been sent up to the printers as well.
So to Representative Pearson's question about 5D, so the amendment is specific to RSA 5D section 4, paragraph 1, which I'm going to read. If an AI system produces a recommendation or a decision, and this recommendation or decision, once implemented or executed, cannot be reversed, then the recommendation or decision must be reviewed by a human who is in an appropriate responsible position and is aware of the limitations of the AI system before the recommendation or decision takes effect. That was the wording that I wrote when I drafted the bill. And my thought there, with my canonical example, somewhat like Representative Novolenko's example, was I imagined a situation where there's a hostage situation and the state police send in a robot. The robot does not decide whether to shoot or who to shoot. You want a person because you cannot be unshot. So that was my thinking, and you know, in terms of what happened in Kuwait, I mean, you know, I agree. AI should not be deciding whether to shoot down planes, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here are situations where things could be happening so fast that it's just not feasible to put the human in the loop, and the situation that could cause it to arise could be something where if we wait for legislation, it's just way too late. The reason I crafted this particular procedure was that it could happen relatively quickly, so that the request would go to the Commissioner of IT. The Commissioner of IT would quickly decide whether to forward it on to the council or not, and the council meets frequently, so that we could actually have a decision quickly. If we waited for a legislative solution, we'd be waiting a year, and that might be way too late. As far as what situations could occur, yeah, a denial of service attack, that might be something where AI could help. It might be something where maybe AI can't help. But there are certainly many other situations where there are attacks on computer systems where AI could be making a decision much faster than a human. And as far as whether that's undoable or not, well, if you keep saying no, 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 it's in effect not undoable. So you want to just make sure that we have this capability that would be reviewed by appropriate people to have exceptions if necessary. I don't see a case happening where the state police would request an exception to allow a robot to shoot. I think this would be used in very limited situations, for situations where AI just is having to make decisions very quickly. And I'll just leave it at that, unless there are more questions.
Yes. Thank you. Are there other questions? Do you have a question, Representative Schmidt?
I have a question. Okay, so this is so hypothetical in terms of the words we're using that it is hard to decide whether it's go or no go. But I mean, there was a situation, I think 10 or 15 years ago, when the radars thought that a Soviet missile attack was happening. Turns out they had picked up the rising moon, and a human being said, "Hold that, go, pushing the button, because it isn't an attack. It's the moon that we're reading with our equipment." So, but I don't see that, and I think Representative Howard said it a moment ago. If you had the executive council making the decision, now you got 5 people who are A, elected, and B, they're sworn. And so you're not going to get a better body in terms of sworn and competent and so forth. And then it's always subject to human error, make a bad call. Just like umpires. Oops, it wasn't strike 3 after all.
Oh, that's irreversible. Thank you, Representative Grota.
Yes. So my thought is that I would like to withdraw my motion. And I would like Representative Schmidt to withdraw his motion. I think that there's value in this. However, it feels like we're swirling around in an eddy and we're not getting anywhere. So my thought is that we interim study this and give ourselves some time to, because we are all on different levels when it comes to our understanding of AI, right? So, and I think that is not unlike many instances where it's a personal comfort, right? It's our personal comfort. I am not comfortable because I know nothing about it. And frankly, this may not be a good thing to know for all of you, but I don't really want to know anything about it. So, but I also think that it's a very important thing, and I think it's something that we need to understand. And I would ask the committee to, and Representative Schmidt, if we could move the motion to interim study so that we all can learn and figure out. And I would also, if it's okay with you, I would feel comfortable if the Director of Information Technology was here, because I think Mr. Goulet could add some information, because for right now, it is nothing to say anything disrespectful to you, but I feel very uncomfortable when there's only one person talking about this issue. So if we had, like a fellow person from the Department of Information Technology come and speak with us, I think that would also be helpful. Does that make sense to everybody?
I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Right, especially since Dr. Corman, Professor Corman, and
Yes.
has said he's an expert on algorithm, not on AI. So we ought to get the AI guy and that could be the commissioner, don't you think, Tom?
Could be.
I don't know how much Commissioner Goulet is an expert on AI. I will add, though, that I worked on this bill with him. So he did buy into the
Right.
original bill.
Right.
Thank you.
If you want to withdraw your motion, I'll withdraw my second. But to the degree that we need to make a decision, maybe we need to think about it a little bit more right now. But I'm ready to go with any way the committee wants to take it, because we do want to make the best decision we can make.
Representative Reese?
May I ask a question, and this because I'm new and don't understand the process perfectly. Does a decision on this have to be made today?
Today or tomorrow? And I don't really, I think this is complex enough. I don't think we'll be able to get to something we're all comfortable with tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, but if we don't try, we do have
Well-
tomorrow. It's not today. It is.
We technically have tomorrow, but we have one hearing at 1:00 tomorrow. If we're doing it at that point and filing a report, we're already past the time to get it to the committee services. And I think the interim study idea is an important one. So, yes,
Okay.
thank you. So I believe the motion and second for the amendment have been withdrawn.
Yes.
I recognize you for motion, Representative Grota,
So I'll make a motion of interim study.
seconded by Representative Schmidt.
Okay, and I
Thank you.
think I've spoken to the motion, if that's okay with everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you. I feel much more comfortable with this, not killing it and not moving forward with a version.
Okay.
So with that, when the clerk is ready to call the roll.
Okay, the motion is interim study for House Bill 1506, Representative Slotchy.
Yes.
Representative Nedlevenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Tebow.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Tebow. Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grota votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Dargy.
Yes.
Yes. Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
No.
No. Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
15 to 1, the motion carries.
Representative DeVries, do you object to this going on the consent calendar?
No.
Thank you. So this will go on the consent calendar, 15 to 1 interim study. And we will make sure that we actually dig into this well during the interim study period, because I think it's important and we need to have the right, and anything where we loosen it up, we need to make sure it's only in those correct areas. So thank you. Yes, and sorry, 1261 is me for the report author. And so with that, we'll close the executive session on House Bill 1506. Representative Juris, did you want us to reopen the executive session on House Bill 1675?
Madam Chair, if we could. Thank you.
I'll reopen the executive session on House Bill 1675. I'll recognize you for a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, Madam Chair, to, after voting on the prevailing side, I'd like to reconsider my vote and change my vote from a yay to a nay, please.
Oh, thank you. I'll second your reconsideration. And so with this, my understanding is you wanted to change your vote, so we'll do a reconsideration and then vote again. So with that, yes. So
understood.
with that, the clerk will, and I don't think we need to call a roll on this reconsideration.
I think, yeah, I
do
think we can
hands.
do hands.
All those in favor of reconsidering? All those opposed? The reconsideration passes, and now we will vote on, again, on ought to pass on House Bill 1675 with amendment 0946H. And I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready.
Okay, let me just get myself, so this is the reconsideration. Okay, so Representative Slushy,
Yes.
Representative Nelavenko,
Yes.
Representative Pearson,
Yes.
Representative Bailey,
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
Yes.
Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes no. Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Davis.
No.
Representative Dargy.
No.
Representative Howard.
No.
Representative DeVries.
Nope.
Representative Juris.
No.
And the chair.
Yes.
Okay, it is 9-7.
Motion passes 9-7. We will stick with the same report author and minority report author.
Correct.
And I will close the executive session on House Bill 1675. And I will, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, you're welcome. And I will open the executive session on House Bill 1438. And I will pass around the amendment that we had drafted. And as everybody's taking a look at this, I did compare it with the language in the original bill. If you're holding them next to each other, they don't line up on the exact same lines because there's a couple extra commas just for better English and readability when they took a review. But it looks to me that it's the same, but I'll give everybody else a chance as well to look at that. Other than, of course, the word shall is changed to may.
It's funny. For some reason, they always.
So, do we need to withdraw a motion on the original, or do we just want to start anew?
If we had a motion open on that, we'll withdraw that and start the new.
You did.
Conditions.
This was on the adoption of the
Was that
Representative Kelly?
Representative Kelly? Did you move move on the other amendment to adopt the other amendment? Oh, DeRoy, Representative DeRoy, you had moved to adopt the amendment previously. Will you withdraw that motion?
Yes, I will withdraw.
And was I the second?
Yes.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. Okay, so now the motion is to adopt.
Got to make a motion.
I will move amendment 1024H for House Bill 1438.
I'll second.
Is that Representative Sellers? Oh, he. Okay.
Sorry, I'm going literally word for word. It looked like it was the same. The change in the commas move things around, so we can't do the nice usual check of checking the last word in each line, which is how I usually like to make sure that they're the same. But the only difference is where some commas are, and I'm not a good enough English major to know how those impact us.
Madam Chair, the other thing too is the shall and the may have been
Yes.
altered.
Yes,
so.
the shall has been changed to a may, as we requested with the amendment. The other part is that initially at the end of knowledge of, now there is a comma and a comma after faith. And there's no longer a comma after conditions. But otherwise it looks like it's the same, and I think that's still the same intention. So is there any further discussion on this, although I'm allowing Representative DeVries to make sure that this is the same? Representative Sellers?
Yeah, I just have one question, and that's regarding, what is the law? There is no law today. So can they or can they not report this today?
So Representative Kelly, if you want to turn on your microphone and tell us if you know the current state of the law.
Thank you. I don't. What you're asking is there a may or shall currently?
I'm asking if there's any limitations for the person reporting this. Is there any limitations on them reporting it today? In current law, that's what I'm getting at.
That's what I'm asking. So you're talking about currently. I don't even know if there's anything. in
Representative
current law.
Slotching?
If I remember the testimony correctly, it's governed by patient confidentiality, so they're not able to disclose.
Thank you.
And on line 3, it does say the information that would normally be protected confidential information. Yes. So this would allow that. I would assume that today, that if somebody talked about absolutely horrific animal torture within there and was gleeful about it, that there was no way to report this through. Now with the may, there is an opportunity to report that. But it also does bring in other situations where somebody may feel that it's neglectful to not put booties on their feet even though their feet are solid. So there is some of that judgment call in there, but right now it seems that some of the most horrific things are protected under confidentiality. Representative Kelly?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I was also assuming that it referred to things where maybe this person has a client they've had for 3 years, and in the past 3 years ago, they said, I beat my dog or something 3 years ago, but in the ensuing 3 years, this person has changed or whatever and is no longer doing that, then they're not going to feel compelled to go report it. But if they said, I beat my dog yesterday, then it would be different. So I am very much in support of this now. I like the may versus shall.
Thank you. And my understanding of it is that with the may, that if they said, I just kicked my dog and I need you to help me to not do this, if they feel that there is constructive, positive work towards solving a problem, that they're not required to report that. Representative Nalavanka?
So if I understand Representative Sellers' question, so what makes this non-reportable is the fact that they're there for different purposes and they have, access to the household, otherwise confidentiality wouldn't cover it, because you can still report animal abuse if you see it, except that what's different here is that you're giving privilege, you're giving access to the premises under a different.
Well, it's
Isn't
not
that-
access to premises.
Yeah, what
This
is
is
it?
when you're going to a mental health care provider, a therapist.
Oh, you go to a therapist and they tell you something. So
Yes.
it's the doctor-client relationship here that we're talking about, and that's where the confidentiality comes in?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I misunderstood that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Is there further discussion? Sorry, Representative Theba?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a point of clarification, are there any sections in law that allows for doctor-patient confidentiality to be breached for the abuse of another human? Is this something that, okay. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
As a matter of fact, there is a duty to report in certain circumstances where they have to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing no further discussion on the amendment, the clerk will call the roll when she's ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion is to adopt Amendment 1024H to House Bill 1438. Representative Sachi.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
No.
No. Okay. Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Dargy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair,
Yes.
15-1.
So the amendment is
Motion.
adopted 15-1. Representative Kelly, did you want to make a motion? Or Representative Roy, whoever. Actually, you've done a ton of motions. Representative Kelly, would you like to make the motion?
Sure. I'd like to move to pass as amended.
With amendment.
Oh, with amended, with amendment. Okay.
And I'll second that with 1024H.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. I had some reservations a little bit about this bill before the shall to may, but with the switch, I think it's really, really important to pass this because not only is animal cruelty and abuse just horrific, but it also affects other people. It affects people. It can affect a spouse. It can affect children. It's something that just we need to deal with as a society. So I very much support to pass with amendment.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your second, Representative Pearson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, the correlation between animal abuse and child abuse is well established. So, as someone who had animals and not children, I became a bit of a animal pacifist after that. So, fully supportive of this, and I agree with Representative Kelly. The shall to the may makes this better. So, let's do it.
Thank you. Representative Sellers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To me, it's not the abuse. The problem is the confidentiality. All right? Someone goes to a therapist, they don't know the laws. They go and share their gut feelings or whatever it is, and they're expecting that to be confidential. And now it's not. So that's my problem with the bill. It's not the shall or may or the abuse. That's the problem, the patient confidentiality.
Thank you. Representative Howard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand, not necessarily everybody understands the law, but I think that most people know that animal abuse is a crime. And it is something where, there are, crimes like shoplifting, for instance, that if you tell your therapist, they're not necessarily going to go to tell the police because there is that confidentiality. But this is, I think, raises beyond the need for that confidentiality. And if the therapist feels that there's a need to go and make a report, then there's probably substantial reason for that being made. I think that, in terms of the confidentiality aspect, if they feel compelled enough to go to the police or, file a report, then I would have to trust them in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Kelly?
One little point is that that's already true with child abuse. If you're abusing your child, you cannot expect confidentiality. And yes, people might not know the law here in the beginning, but that was true at some point with reporting child abuse. So it's the same thing.
Representative Juris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I believe in most cases when it comes to when you approach a mental health counseling situation or you go to a therapist, the onboarding documents, I believe, do have that information in there. And in most of the time now, you have to actually go on their online portal to fill out the documents, and those documents in there will speak to anything that happened to children or and they'll, if this does go all the way through, that'll probably be inserted into the onboarding documents. They'll ask a bunch of questions to you, typically, your insurance information, your family life, any issues you've had in the past, along with why you're actually going there. And in there, I believe also they do talk about having to make those reportings. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Representative DeVries?
I was just going to add that there are exceptions to every understanding of confidentiality. So there are exceptions to the marital privilege, there are exceptions to attorney-client privilege, there are exceptions, and most of these exceptions are in furtherance of good public policy. The underlying public policy in this situation is that there's a very strong correlation, as my friend mentioned, very strong well, first off, abusing animals is bad, full stop. Secondly, it's very directional into indicating abuse of others. And so there's a very good reason why there would be an exception carved out for this. And I don't think that when somebody's committing a crime, it tends to be that these things are a balancing act, and that you raise up confidentiality where you want to protect something that's sacrosanct. And so you have a pastoral relationship that you're protecting, you have a marital relationship, you have a legal relationship that you're trying to protect, a therapist relationship that you're trying to protect. But there are exceptions to all of them. And because I'm an animal lover, and because I think that this correlation is so incredibly strong, I'm in full support of this.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, we'll have the clerk. Oh, sorry. My apologies, Representative Schmidt.
So when I was listening to Representative Sellers before, I think there's a different aspect to this, that what you gave as an example than what I think most of us are talking about, where the confidentiality that would be breached is not that the guy came and he told me, I'm the therapist, he told me that he beat his animal, and then I turned around and reported him or her, it's usually a guy. But it's a situation where the therapist gains information or suspects that it's going on. If the person tells you that they beat their animal, then you haven't seen it, but they confess that they did it. And it's a different thing than if you have reason to suspect, not because the person confessed to you, but because of somebody else told you about it, or you saw evidence or whatever, and then then you decide you had a duty to report. So I think that's a difference. There are two different situations there. So I'm seeing more not the way you see it, but the way I think some of us are seeing it, where you have a duty to report, and it's not the person who's confessing to you directly as a therapist. Just a thought.
Thank you. Representative Sellers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, we all agree the abuse to an animal is not the right thing, for sure. And I'm not disagreeing with that. But what I'm disagreeing with is mental health, and who is making that decision to say it's abuse and who is not. Because abuse to one person is not necessarily abuse to another. And maybe certain things are outlined, but not everything is outlined. So therefore, it's how they say it. It's not evidence-based. It's really, yeah, today this is abuse because of this part of the country. We don't believe in it. This part of the north section of New Hampshire, we don't believe in it, so we can do this. But the south part, they do believe in it, so it's okay. So my point is, I'm just getting to the point is, it's not the abuse, it's the privacy, and it's also the mental health part of who's deciding the abuse, and each person is different. Each therapist is different, so I don't want to see a person turned in because they made a mistake because they whipped their horse to make the horse go. Is that abuse or is it not abuse? Or they use spurs and they spike their horse to get it to go. Some places would say it's abuse, some would not. I'm using that for an example. So I'm just saying we could go on and on and on. I'll leave it like that, and we'll just take the vote from there.
Thank you. Representative Pearson?
As far as the determination of abuse, that is not in any way left into the hands of a therapist. These actions or potential actions or suspect actions are being sent to the NHSPCA for them to make a determination as to whether or not things move forward. And those folks are, at least in this state, considered the prevailing experts on what flies and what doesn't. So I don't think that burden's being placed upon a therapist at all. I think that they're just transferring reasonable suspicion is really probably the best way. Thank you for that. But yeah, that is really what's going on here. So, you know, if we were putting the burden on a therapist to make a determination, I think that would be insane. But the bill clearly doesn't do that. It outlines the procedure and how that's going to go. So I don't think we're going to run into situations of prevailing winds, if you will, when it comes to animal abuse.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, I'll have the clerk call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion is ought to pass with Amendment 1024H on House Bill 1438. Representative Slotchy.
Yes.
Representative Nalavenko.
Yes.
Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Aye.
Representative Sellers.
No.
Okay. Representative Tebow.
Yes.
Representative DeRoy.
Yes.
Representative Kelly.
Yes.
Representative Grote votes yes. Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Jargy.
Yes.
Representative Howard.
Yes.
Representative DeVries.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
And the chair,
Yes.
15-1.
With it 15-1, I have a feeling this one might get some other interest, so we'll just keep it on the regular calendar and it'll just probably move through, but
It's fine for me if we're going on consent.
it's fine to go on consent?
Yep,
Okay,
that's fine.
so no
Consent,
no
yes.
minority, so on consent. Okay.
Okay.
And with that, I'll close the executive session on House Bill 1438. We have one additional House bill that we are a second committee on. That one has a hearing tomorrow at 1 o'clock. That's House Bill 1093. I will send an amendment to that I have. So we do not need to meet for the executive session tomorrow at 10. Will be meeting for that hearing. And that is our remaining House bill. We have 28 Senate bills that have already been sent to us. So we will look at getting scheduled starting March 16th to see what we can do to start processing through those, because I have a feeling there'll be more than just the 28 that are coming our way. We'll be back. I think we're back in our regular room tomorrow for our hearing at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock for our hearing. Anybody who is writing a report, I need that report tonight. I would like that report before you leave so that they can get through if possible. If not, I'm going to need to figure out how quickly we can do that. We have a potential minority report on 1788, but I don't have a name yet for that one.
That's me.
Okay, that'll be Representative Grote.
Yeah, but you get it tonight.
Okay.
I'm not gonna-
Okay, because our committee assistant has many dozens of reports to get in, and we'd like to be nice to her by getting those through. So with that, thank you very much. I am very impressed that we got through all 15 of our bills in 2 hours and 45 minutes. So thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Madam Chair, you got my bill, email as far as the